Mind Reader by Lost Hairdressers. My name is Clint, and I hope you enjoy the conversation.
So I was looking this morning, and I think the video we worked on together, or when we worked together last, was maybe the Freak video for Lana. Or Lana, sorry, Lana.
Oh, wow, okay. But what was the first one? National Anthem?
Yeah, maybe it was. Maybe that was the first one, and then it was
when we were in New York, right? Just in the Hamptons.
No, I wasn't with you on that one.
So then you just did. Oh, okay. So the LA ones were West Coast, blue jeans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Tropico. Did you do Tropico with me?
I can't remember. I'd have to look, because I think we did some just photo stuff together too. But
yeah, like I think you were on the Dazed shoot with me.
Yeah. I will look after this and see. But it's been like, I don't know, 10 years maybe.
God, Clint, I know. I mean, I was with Lana yesterday because she just had a run of shows, and it's weird, because we'll do some shows and then there's a gap and then we'll do some more things. But we all realized yesterday when saying goodbye that we've just done like a year and a half of There's a Tunnel Under Ocean Boulevard, like kind of, era, because that album came out at the beginning of last year. So it was just weird. It was just weird saying goodbye to everyone, because we were like, God, how have we done like a year and a half of traveling with this album? Even though obviously at the shows she performs, all the hits from all the other albums. It just felt like a moment where everyone was kind of feeling the same thing, in that the time just flies by.
Man, yeah. I mean, I'm sure that they feel like family to you, after all that time
Yeah.
together.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, to see you, I feel like that this is the first time I've seen you since those videos. Like Freak would have been, if that was the last thing we did you supported me on, that would have been 2014.
Yeah, I think so.
And breathe.
I know. It's so crazy. But I always just really enjoyed working with you. You were always so sweet and pleasant, and it was fun, and it was not like the other people I would assist sometimes.
Oh, that's good to hear.
It was always yeah.
That's good to hear. We've just started Fashion Week training, actually, and I couldn't be there. It started yesterday, but my first assistant, Adam, who's also works across production, was started the training. And it's actually, so I feel like I've been doing this for a couple of years, where I will spend like 4 or 5 weeks leading up to Fashion Week to get everyone sort of in a place that where I feel confident that they know not necessarily my style, but know how I like to approach things. And there's so many more that have joined this time, and it's silly, but it's actually just the most rewarding, because when people are coming to you to, like, join your team because they've heard good things, and they've heard how nice it is to work as part of the team, because it isn't just me, it's also my core team. I've trained everyone to just not have an ego, and to treat everyone fairly and with kindness and patience. So it really means a lot to hear you say that. I'm glad I was kind back then.
Yeah. Me too. It was great. Is this for I don't have the dates in front of me. Is this for New York or is this coming like for London
This is for
Fashion Week?
London. Yeah, London Fashion Week.
Okay.
So we start
Okay.
it's
Cool.
Friday the 13th. Yeah, that we kick off
Oh,
with our hardest. Well,
nice.
no, it's not our hardest show. It will be our most creative show probably. It's with a designer called Chet Lowe, who I've worked with for about 4 seasons. Yeah, this will be our fifth season together, and it's always super creative. But yeah, a good introduction to the madness for everyone.
Man, I can't wait to see it. Do you tend to work better if like there is complete creative freedom, or do you need more of a focused direction?
Uh, it's a bit of both for me. How I I think of course having that creative freedom is important. But I think when I feel for me as a hairstylist, when we're coming into something, it's always as a result of it's always on the back of a creative director or a stylist or a musician or an actress that have already been sitting with the idea for maybe a few weeks or a few months. And so I feel it's always really good to have an insight into what is it what's the story that we need to tell, um, and I think that can help with a starting point. And so although the creative freedom is amazing, I think it's also really important to just get into the headspace of who has come up with the idea and who essentially is the one directing the concept, whether it be for a music video or a show or an editorial. So yeah, I'd say both.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I imagine the longer you have to kind of sit with who they are as an artist or what their, line looks like or what their, inspiration is, the more you can kind of wrap your head around a concept and then come to them with some ideas. So,
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Because I think sometimes I've found in previous experiences there people are very mindful and conscious of artists' time, and so I think it always starts off with, yeah, we want to hear your thoughts and we want you to come to the table with your ideas, your references, and of course that's like the dream. But I think as hairstylists, we can go in so many different directions. And I know I work better when I understand what is the story that we need to tell. And I tend to always ask that, who is the person, who is our character, who is he or she or they, where are they going, where have they come from, what are they feeling, what do we need to say in this. And obviously the majority of my career and what launched my career was this really incredible opening into Lana's world and joining her on her journey as an artist. And I think especially in music there has to be that approach, there has to be the mindfulness of understanding the story. And so it was an incredible training, actually. I pull so much of what I do from the people that I assisted, but I'd say that a lot of it also comes from the training that I had working with an artist like Lana, and understanding that world, understanding her, the reference points and the images and the stories and the documentaries and the films. And although at times that never necessarily led to a hair look specifically, it was just
mhm.
an incredible insight into what was going on, what was the thought, and where did the idea start for a music video? You know, national anthem. You know, there was so
Right.
much of delving back into the history books of, you know, Jackie Kennedy and JF Kennedy, and looking at, you know, just the style and the culture of that time, and making it modern as well. So yeah, my approach is always, okay, creative freedom is amazing, but give me something. Give me something to just
Sure.
give to help me have a starting point. What about you?
With Lana in Oh, well, thank you. You know, I think that for me, I love relationships, you
Mm,
know, and I love the hairdresser client, whether it's, you know, a designer or you're just client in your chair. I love getting to know that person really well,
mm,
and you know, if it's the first meeting, spending time with them. You know, one of the things I did when I started to like kind of tamp down doing session work and focus on my clientele a little bit more here in LA is I extended the time I have with them because I
okay.
could afford to.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I like to sit get on their level and really talk, and I think for you know, going into some, you know, session work and stuff like that, uh I think the longer I have to sit with the concept and to understand who that person
Mm,
is as an artist, the better, and the more
yeah.
I'll have to offer. But
Yeah.
create like complete creative freedom is a very intimidating, kind of disastrous thought to me. Like it's too much, you know. It's like
Yeah.
going to a restaurant that has too many items, you know,
Absolutely.
to choose from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and I feel exactly the same way, because I think, you know, you could have the same story, you know, whether that be an editorial or for a music video, and go in completely different directions with hair. And I think that it's important to understand, you know, when I go onto, you know, shoot sets, I always kind of want to sit with the stylist, and even if it's, you know, if time doesn't allow, but to just in my own time look at the clothes and understand the textures and the silhouettes, and I think that's, you know, and sometimes that can get missed, and I think we know, right? We know when we look at an image and see when it's, oh my gosh, this is perfect. That shape, that silhouette,
Mhm.
that texture is perfect, because it all just marries together. And I think that's, you know, why for me personally, Italian Vogue growing up was the, you know, I would go through it religiously and spend my pocket money buying two copies of each issue, because I would
Yeah.
want to tear out the stories that I love, to put them up on my wall or put them in a scrapbook, and then I'd keep an issue whole to just, you know, preserve. And I feel that, you know, what Franca did for Italian Vogue, and with all the teams that worked across that publication, was just there was this incredible story. I don't know, I always come from the lens of what's going to look beautiful and what will really bring everything together, because I feel as a hairstylist, and you know, and I look at makeup in the same way, and it's not always like this, but I feel that we are just bringing the final pieces of the jigsaw, you know, the idea and the
Mhm.
vision and you know, the style of photography or cinematography, that all gets, discussed way ahead of when we come in. And I think that, there is also this place where not the right look, not the right hairstyle can create a bad image. And so I feel it's really important, and it's our responsibility to ask the questions.
Yeah, absolutely. When you were collecting these images from Italian Vogue, how old was Anna at this point?
Oh my God. So I would have been 13,
Wow.
14. Yeah. I
Okay.
remember I grew up in Berkshire, so it's like west of London, in a small town called Maidenhead, born to Italian parents. Um, and I just go to WH Smith, so that's like I don't know, what would be the equivalent in America of a WH Smith? Like a Walmart, maybe? A magazine store,
Yeah.
stationery
Okay.
store, um, and buy my Italian Vogue there. But it would always come out later, right? We're talking like the 90s. So it would come out in Italy, and then I'd have to wait like 3-4 weeks before it would be in WH Smith in Maidenhead. And yeah, I think I'd also around the same time discovered fashion TV. And so I would
Mm.
watch all the runway shows. I mean, I was obsessed. My parents made me go to,
Why?
yeah, yeah.
What got you? Who exposed you to this? Was it just seeing things, or was your family kind of in that world?
Well, so my dad, both my parents were very stylish. My dad was blind, but he had a real passion for clothes. Was always really well dressed. I think that part of his, and this is a separate conversation, but part of his journey when he became blind was to, really use the power of self care and dress to still make him feel empowered and give him a sense of identity as he was losing his sight. So, I'd often, when we'd go into stores, he would, ask me to describe colors and fabrics and, and shapes, if the lapel was curved or straight, or, the buttons, if he always liked unusual buttons. So if I'd always, pick the clothes that had unusual buttons so that he could then feel them. So I guess that maybe fed into my, I guess, passion for imagery and fashion. But also, my mum loved Italian films. So, even though they came to the UK in their late teens, early 20s, we had a satellite dish. We had we had all the Italian channels, and by
Mhm.
virtue of having, God, I mean, it sounds so backward, but having the satellite dish that all the Italian families were talking about, and because now it meant that they could watch all their favorite Italian TV shows. And I think by virtue of having that, we had access to all these other channels. And I think I feel I must have just been scrolling, like just flicking through, because there was like 200-300 different channels that you could
Mhm.
access, just random channels. And I think I must have just come across fashion TV just randomly, like flicking through, and obviously it was the 90s. It was the age of the supermodels, and seeing, and it was especially the Italian shows, the Versace and Armani and Prada, and watching the likes of Linda Evangelista and Helena Christensen and Naomi Campbell walking, and I think what caught my eye was just the diversity of the looks, you know, from these beautiful demure silhouettes to then these more avant-garde shapes, and then seeing how the hair and makeup differed on the same models but for different shows. And I think that, you know, really just fueled my, I guess, my understanding and my aesthetic in a way. But coming back to, you know, my mum and her love for Italian films, we, you know, we'd watch all the classics with Sophia Loren and Gina Lollobrigida and Claudia Cardinale and Ornella Muti and you know, and these were films from like the 60s, the 70s. So seeing those, you know, incredible like hairstyles, and it was just I think all of that just really fed into my love for fashion and hair and makeup.
Did you tend to always gravitate towards what was pretty, or did you like both aspects? Was there, because you know Italian cinema it's very beautiful, and the women, it's very feminine and it's very
Yeah.
beautiful. Was there another side of that you were attracted to as well?
Yeah, I think that you know, obviously growing up in you know, I was about an hour 45 minutes outside of, you know, central London. So, you know, as soon as I could start driving, I was coming into London to like go to like raves and just seeing that whole, you know, underground culture, and you know, and what was essentially the underbelly of London, you know, the music scene, the fashion scene, you know, Alexander McQueen, just, you know, seeing that more punk rave culture on the streets, sort of, I guess, observing it and not necessarily understanding it as well as what I had been exposed to, as you know, as a young teenager, as a result of, you know, watching all these Italian films and watching the runway shows and you know, flicking through the pages of Italian Vogue. It was definitely a side that I had been less exposed to, but intrigued by and curious. And I would say that it wasn't until I started my apprenticeship in hairdressing and then moving to London and joining Eugene's team, where I really got to understand the power of, say, a more conceptual and abstract hair look could still be beautiful, even if at first glance it was ugly.
Right, right. Wow, really nice. Yeah, I was thinking that too. Like the '90s musically would have been a direct kind of dichotomy with what you
Yeah.
grew up with as far as beauty goes. That's really a cool. That's really good for you. I feel like what a nice, um, like you know, I don't, maybe like sharpening of your edge. You know,
Yeah,
to have that
absolutely.
as your back.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's you know, and if I look back on my career and look back at, you know, certain key moments, for sure, you know, that those initial years of like, you know, going out in London, um really helped to become a kind of reference point, you know, for me. Um,
Yeah.
and you know, and I think that although my aesthetic falls in that world of more technical hair looks that have got this more maybe feminine, beautiful, texture or aesthetic, there is such a huge appreciation of the kind of the more the abstract looks. Like I love what Anthony does, and Paul, and the way that they can create these more, I guess they're looks that are inspired by the 90s and the 2000s, where there's that more kind of grunge, punk, rave aesthetic, but there's also a vulnerability to some of those looks, which I think in that lies a beauty. And it I think that it's something that can only come with time as well. I find that when I'm running the training workshops with my team who join me at Fashion Week, they want to understand what my style is. What is it that I'm going to look for? How can they learn to pick out the things that I might not like, or that I might want them to to work on in lineup? And it's a difficult one. It's a really difficult one to answer, because I think that what I see is as a result of 15 years of working in the session world, and nurturing the eye, right, and the knowledge, the intellect. I think as artists, we can never stop feeding our, not just our creativity, but our knowledge. We have to keep reading. We have to keep looking at photo books. We have to keep going to, exhibitions. And I try to always look at things that I might not necessarily like, and to your point, I will gravitate towards something that's maybe more beautiful and feminine, and I try to push myself to look at the opposite, so I can just fuel that curiosity, and maybe help myself to bring a different edge to a look that I've maybe done multiple times. It's not always easy, because you develop a style and an aesthetic, and your session kit becomes all about creating the things that you love creating. So it's then difficult sometimes to flip that. But yeah, do you find that? What do you do to keep yourself inspired and challenge your aesthetic?
Honestly, I could probably do more. My my last few years, especially with Lost Hairdressers, has been kind of like a very consuming kind of situation, where I think that I wasn't able to focus so much on developing my aesthetic for hair,
Yeah,
and
okay.
it's really
Yeah.
interesting. And these conversations are really kind of helping me kind of refocus just on a personal level, be-
Mm,
because I'm talking to people, and I love hearing people's experiences and people's approaches, but it's definitely like shedding light on my own approach and what I need to do to kind of like continue to nurture that, you know
mm,
um so thanks for asking.
yeah, of course. And
It's
what
a journey.
when did you start Lost Hairdressers?
I started it with my late brother in, man, it must have been like 2009, like as a concept. And then it was a blog. And then when Instagram came around, a friend was like, "Hey, you should do Instagram." Not even with Lost Hairdressers in mind. And I was like, that seems like it'll work, for Lost Hairdressers. And so I just started kind of doing it because I was so I came up with Tony and Guy, and I kind of thought Tony and Guy was going to be my avenue to work in fashion. I thought it was like this direct thing, and when I ended up moving to Los Angeles, I just kind of figured out like that there was this whole other world that I needed to take part in, and it involved me getting, on assistant, rosters, which is how I met you, and many others, people that were coming from Europe or coming from New York. And it was like, it was something I could use to write about my experience. And it was also a thing where, because at this point, none of these other accounts really existed. There was nothing else that was like bringing the fashion world to the forefront, because
Mhm.
I've always hated like hair competition hair and all that stuff. Like I wanted to kind of like be something that exposed just beautiful photography and beautiful well done hair in
Mhm.
fashion specifically, and then bring those hairdressers to the forefront if
Mhm.
at all possible.
Okay.
And then now it's kind of in the mix of everything, but I do feel like with having a podcast I can dig really deep,
Sure.
and kind
Yeah.
of do do what I intended to do on a deeper scale, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, totally, totally. Yeah, I think it's great. I was so happy when you reached out, and yeah, I'd seen a few other people who'd been on it, and yeah, it's great. And I think it's so important in our industry to to speak to each other. I think that we do it a lot better when we're in maybe the more commercial hairdressing side of the business, and a lot less, I think, in fashion. You don't often, yeah, conscious of what I say, but I it's not
Sure.
as easy to, to speak to fellow hairstylists, and I think that this is just a wonderful way to, to open that up, and I think that, there's just so much that we can all learn from each other, and also find ways in supporting each other. I think we're a much better industry and better world when we're kind of, together, than when it's as separate as it can be sometimes. It's not always the way, but
Yeah, it can be kind of competitive, and I never really understood that. I think for me personally, I found the world of session hair like really intimidating.
yeah, I can understand.
And when I'm when I'm in that headspace, it's very hard for me to be creative. And I kind of grew up playing music, and in that realm, I don't really feel any creative interference, right?
Hmm.
But when it comes to expressing myself on set in hair with a lot of eyes on you, a lot of pressure, it was
Hmm.
easy for me to kind of like turn off or go blank. And so I think with that, I really always wanted to know the whys and the hows, and the way people thought and the way people approached these situations, or why did you in particular, why did you choose hair? Right? Like when you're creative, you could have done a thousand other things. You could have
Yeah,
done clothes, you could have done anything, right? But why was hair the place where you were like, I can own this world? Like I
yeah,
can own everything that I do, and I love that story. It's
yeah, yeah,
really
yeah,
healthy
yeah.
for me.
Yeah, no, I hear it. Yeah, I hear it. I mean, God, my journey was a strange one into hair, because I didn't come into it until a lot later in life. I actually studied performing arts. So after college, I then went on to do a performing arts course. I loved acting and singing. I sang in a Latin jazz band for a good few years,
Wow.
from about the age of, oh, maybe 18 till about 21, 22. Um, And I think when I realized that I wasn't going to be Tina Marie or Shaka Khan, I decided, I thought to myself, okay, oops, this is not good. I'm okay, but I'm not as good as the people that I'm listening to. So what am I going to do? And I thought, well, one of the things in the course that I did, it it really delved into the, as well as acting, singing, and dancing. It also delved into production, lighting design, costume design, hair and makeup, and I think it really kind of took me. It was like this kind of full circle moment where I was, having to learn about theatre, hair, and makeup, but what was being triggered was just this passion and this huge love and interest in creating character, and it connected to what I would love, what I loved watching from on fashion TV was just one show after the other, and seeing how different the same models looked at each of the shows, and understanding that that wasn't just the clothes, that was the hair and makeup, that was the hair and makeup that was transforming them into these different characters. And again, with my love for the Italian Vogue editorials, it was, it was always the shoots that either Maisel or Reversi did, where there was just this incredible theatre and storytelling, and the hair was avant-garde, it was abstract, as well as the makeup. And I think that then doing this course and thinking that I could just keep being in a band, but then soon realizing that actually that I wasn't good enough. I was like, okay, so what can I do? What skill could I actually really learn and qualify in, or and do an apprenticeship and qualify in something that will enable me to continue singing, but that is still fueling this this idea of creativity and characters and storytelling. And it was in that moment that I think I was at a bar, and I happened to meet this girl who was studying, she was doing an apprenticeship, her hair apprenticeship at a salon called Harrington's. And I don't know, something just yeah, clicked. And she said that they were looking for, new apprentices to start. And so I went for an interview. At the time, there was this, one of the founding partners was this incredible hairstylist, Eamon Borum, who you may have heard of. He started with Anthony at Tony and Guy, and his time at Harrington's ended, and he's actually back with the TNG team. But I think that my time with him in that interview just, I think, is what really fueled then this new journey. And he,
Why?
I can,
What was discussed there?
he spent very little time talking about the apprenticeship, and
Mhm.
went more into the the excitement of qualifying as a hairstylist, and all of the different paths that you could go down, and he just again, it was kind of one of those full circle moments where he all those moments spent watching fashion TV, flicking through Italian Vogue, doing my performing arts course, but then also performing on stage. he kind of brought it all into that conversation, and he described like the different avenues that I could go down, from doing session work, working on fashion shoots, to becoming an educator, to joining an art team, to working on film sets. And yeah, I was just, I think he, along with a few key other hairstylists at Harrington's who trained me, were like the fuel really for the fire. And yeah, I don't know. I went in with this attitude that I was just going to do my apprenticeship and qualify as quickly as possible, um, so that I could then start exploring all these different avenues. And I think it was also the idea of being a part of a world that would be so diverse, and that would enable me to also travel the world. I think that was also something that, really excited me, to know that I could learn a skill and that I could then do that anywhere in the world was just really mind blowing. And I thought, yeah, this is what I want to do. I think I accepted the position there and then. I did my apprenticeship, qualified within a year and 10 months. And then not long after that, I entered a competition. It was the L'Oreal under 25 hairdresser of the year, which I won. And that winning year, that title enabled me to work on a couple of photo shoots. I got to assist a few people at fashion shows, and by that point, I'd done a couple of years as a hairstylist running a busy column. And I think it was just a really incredible time for me that, as well as working in the salon, I was just getting this chance to come to London and assist people and do my own shoots and, assist Eamon, because at the time the art team were doing really, really well and winning awards at the British Hairdressing Awards. And yeah, I think so I
This
stayed.
was still with, this was still
Sorry.
with Harrington.
This was still with
This was still
Harrington.
with Harrington's.
Yeah, yeah. And I stayed there. I worked my way up. So I had that winning kind of year that I held that title for a year. And then I stayed and worked my way up to art director. So I was doing seminars and doing shoots with the art team. And then in 2006, I left. So I'd done 7 years with them. And then I left to go traveling, came back to London, and then I moved to London. And then that's when I decided I would stay as a, freelance hairstylist and look to, kind of pursue the journey into the session world.
Cool. So in that realm, what was the point? Because you had mentioned assisting Eugene, and that was a big thing for you. At what point did that come into the picture?
So to 2008, yeah. So I moved to London in the April, and in the September I got onto. So my first fashion week was with Sam McKnight in London, and then I think I took myself to Paris. Just made myself available. I knew I only wanted to work with Eugene, and just kept emailing the agency, kept letting them know that I was there, I was available, that I would be happy to just prep hair. And yeah, just, an opening became available, and I joined his team and was with him for till about 2011, as well as working on a lot of Sam's shoots, because at the time Eugene was living in New York. Yeah, I mean, God, that period was crazy, really, because it was the first time I was living in London. It was the, you know, managing, private clients to kind of, keep my financial situation going, because as and I'm sure you experienced, a lot of things had to be done free of charge, like doing test shoots, doing assisting work on, especially on editorials, was sometimes unpaid. And it was, yeah, it was, just it was like going back to school, and I think and it's often what I say to my assistants now, like, just allow yourself to learn again. I get so many who'll come from having spent 6, 7, 10 years working in a salon, who think that they can just start a career as a session hairstylist. And yes, some are fortunate to get that lucky break really early on in their journey, but it's really important to give yourself time to relearn, because as a lot of the skills that you need in session are very different to those that we learn being hairstylists in a salon. And I still say to Eugene and to Sam that those were 3 of the best years of my life. I mean, all the firsts, I remember, gosh, I remember as if it was yesterday, being in Paris and, getting onto Eugene's team. And the first show was Yoji Yamamoto. And I was like, I think when that show finished, I cried, because I was just so happy. I loved Yoji's aesthetic. I loved the hair that Eugene did. It was
Do you remember what the hair looked like for that show?
I can, yeah. So it would have been September 2008, and it was a shape where we used this technique where you backcomb the roots and then clamp the roots with the straightening irons and brush that out to then create this really aerated volume that's just, it was super like fluffy and light, and all the hair was like swept over and then folded back on itself. I just had all these beautiful whiffs of hair that, as the ball whiffs on the runway, it just moved. And the side that was all slicked over was I think it was pink red. All the clothes were black. There was this live pianist who played this beautiful piece of classical music as the models walked, and it was just, I don't know. I think for me it just brought all those worlds together. The memories of Italian Vogue, to then the work as as a young aspiring singer, um, and just the power of music, right? I think just hear, even though we couldn't see the show live, but just hearing the music, knowing what we had created was walking to that. It was just like perfect. And
Wow.
it was, and it was really fun. It was really fun pivoting between, working with Eugene, but then also working with Sam McKnight on his shoots, and every now and then a peppering of Malcolm Edwards and Samantha Hillaby. Because there were, for me, there was just so much to learn from each of them. They, such different approaches to not just looks that they created, but in the techniques that they used, in the products that they used, the tools. So it was just, a really incredible time.
So
I
no
think
doubt. Sorry, I was going to
no,
say
no,
no
no, go
doubt
ahead.
it was developed. But did you conscientiously like feel kind of your personal style developing? Are you looking at things and like, oh, like I would really like to see this? Like, is this worst question ever? But is this over time? Like, are you feeling your own style kind of being brought out of these experiences?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think my style, there's my best friend, one of my best friends, Sandra, who's an amazing makeup artist, Sandra Cook. She, whenever we work together, you know, she's always commenting on, you know, how I marry the worlds of like graphic shapes with texture, and she calls it architectural, and it's yeah, you know, I don't know, is that a style? Is it I'm not sure, because there's, you know, there's there's obviously so much of my work that is, you know, of Lana, having worked with her for 13 years, that is, you know, it's very feminine and it's very technical, you know, the Hollywood waves or the shapes that, you know, inspired by the 60s. But I think when I'm maybe, you know, going back to your question, or, you know, what we were talking about earlier, about, you know, in terms of creative freedom, I think that I'm in my happy place when I'm either doing something really bold and graphic or combining different textures. Like a lot of sometimes what I look at for inspiration can be images of architecture, or it can be dance performances where they're using materials. And I think that there is, I have a love for texture and combining different textures in one look. And I think that's why that look that we did for, yeah, or the look that Eugene created for the Yoji show really stands out for me, because it was just this, you know, such a technical approach, but then it just combined these two completely different textures. And I remember then thinking, God, I hope one day I could come up with ideas like this. I don't think I'm there yet. I'm not, you know, I think there's still so much more for me to do and to learn. And but yeah, I think that I always come back to, it is, will this look beautiful? And so whatever a look needs to be, as long as it looks beautiful, I think is the lens that I have. And even
Did
something
you
as
work?
yeah.
Sorry.
No,
Did you
even
work in
yeah.
session?
Sorry.
There's a bit of a there's a bit of a latency, but it's totally fine. Did you work in session for quite a while before you linked up with Lana?
No, God,
Okay.
I met Lana and I did my first shoot with her in March 2011. So I'd only been doing, you know, I can't even say I was a session hairstylist. I was an assisting session hairstylist, and I was still in my infancy, honestly. And you know, but and I remember speaking to Sam, um, about it, because I felt so nervous, you know, going down. You know, the first shoot that I did with Lana, it was in Shepherd's Bush. She was living in the UK at the time, in London. We were a friend of mine, an incredible stylist called Johnny Blue Eyes, asked me if I wanted to go and do a test shoot with an unsigned singer. I don't know who she was, and the idea was that it was just going to be an opportunity to create some images and just for everyone to see how they got on together. And within a few months, it became very clear that she was going to sign a record deal, and I felt that there was still so much more that I had to learn, and I was so confused as to whether to go down that journey with her or to, that I had at that point I'd been doing quite a few things in London with Malcolm Edwards, um, and he was looking for a new first assistant, and I remember, just speaking to Sam and just and Eamon actually, his, incredible Eamon Hughes, his right hand man, and I was like, I don't know what to do. There's a part of me that feels like to earn my stripes, I need to be someone's first assistant for at least 3 years. But now I've got this opportunity. It feels like she's going to get signed, and in his advice to me was, Anna, there's just no wrong or right way into the industry. Just, you know be open and just go with it, and just allow yourself to be guided by the opportunities that come in. And
Are you
I
that that naturally runs toward discomfort?
so sorry, say that again.
Are you someone that naturally runs towards discomfort?
Yeah, that's so funny. I never looked at it like that. Yeah. Yeah, because I was totally I was going to say no to going to that shoot. I was like, I don't know what, I don't even feel like I've got a decent enough kit. But I thought, oh, who cares? Just go. Just go and see what happens. But yeah, gosh, having an epiphany here, Clint. 20 years on, and I'm now realizing who I am. She's the one who loves a little bit of chaos and discomfort. I think
Well,
discomfort
I
is
will
good,
say that
right? I think discomfort is good. I think that is the only way, if someone were to ask me, you know, how did I get here, and how did I invite the opportunities that life brought to me? It's as a result of wanting to continually push myself out of my comfort zone. And yeah, in doing that comes the discomfort, comes the fear. I in the October 2011, when just after Lana had signed her first record deal with Germany Interscope Polydor, we got asked to do a video shoot. I'd never done a music video before, never. It was for Born to Die that we shot at the Chateau de Versailles, and I took 3 hours to do her hair. I mean, I would never do that now, never. But because she was, you know, she was a singer, and everyone knew how big she was going to be, we were kind of left to our, you know, left to kind of take the time that we needed. And yeah, I think to do that Hollywood wave and put in all, the extra hair, just a good 3 hours and some, just so naive at not understanding, just how music videos work. And yeah,
it's
crazy.
really fascinating that you kind of came up as a performer, a singer, and now kind of, your what seems to be your biggest relationship in your world now is with a performer singer. Like you care for her, aesthetic, and you have such perspective on that world. It really makes sense that you're in that position to do that. I'm sure it's a really beautiful thing, like a really great relationship with you guys.
Yeah, I feel very, very, very grateful and very yeah, even now, Clint, it really gets me emotionally because uh, I feel so lucky. It's just been such an incredible journey to witness her growth and but also to have had this kind of training and insight into the world of visual imagery across all platforms. And I think you know the joy for me is crafting the relationship and crafting the storytelling. And I think that what we create when we work on an album cover campaign shoot trickles into then what we do in the music videos and for red carpet performances or show performances. And it's just this it's ever evolving journey. And yeah, it's an incredible privilege to be a small part of this huge jigsaw that you know brings so much of the of her artistry to so many people around the world. And to see how that impacts people as well, yeah, it's very humbling. um and has been at the core of me as an artist, as a hairstylist, and how I approach other shoots and my work with other clients.
Yeah, absolutely. Uh, from an outsider perspective, that relationship could be pretty consuming. How do you maintain your ability to, um, work on other things and also be adaptable to other things when a part of you has been so firmly planted in working with an artist and working in music?
Um, yeah, that's a really great question. I don't know. um, I love working, Clint. Um, I think that we're so lucky as hairstylists to be in the industry that we are in. And um, when I'm not on the road with her, it's very much about, okay, what's happening here? What are the shoots that I'm working on here? And I I don't know. I think that a lot of my attitude and approach to life and to my work ethic is intrinsically woven with my upbringing and with having a parent who was well, both parents who were immigrants, but then also a parent who became blind. And I think that it's I think growing up I learned the value of showing up and of in believing in your dreams and believing that nothing comes easy. Even when you think you know it all, you've got to keep pushing. And my dad passed away in 2009. And a few years ago, I started an organization called Hair and Care. And I would say that when I'm not on the road or shooting in London or in Paris, I'm spending a lot of time working on hair and care. And I think that that's really helped to keep me grounded and, I don't know, I guess fuel the gratitude and the empathy muscle, which can sometimes get lost in the fashion world. It's a world that's so momentary and can be so materialistic and superficial and I think that's why I also feel so lucky to have just married the worlds of fashion and music, because for sure being on an immersive and expansive journey with a music artist, and knowing just how important it is to build relationships is what has also enabled me to, to I guess to have a strong, have a strong outer layer, and to not allow myself to, get too caught up or affected by the fashion world. But yeah, for sure, hair and care also helps me to keep grounded.
Well, while we're on the subject, tell me about Hair and Care. What is it exactly?
So, hair and care is essentially a community interest company. So it's a charity that supports blind and low vision women and young girls learn the fundamentals in hair care. So once a month, we hold a workshop at my studio, and for 2 hours, myself, along with hairstylist volunteers, teach them how to style their hair, but also care for their hair. And we've been doing it since 2019. Um, since its inception, we've supported over 300 women and young girls, and we've got a network of around 50 hairstylists that will give up their time to come and support me and the team in giving those services free of charge. And it's kind of, it's been an incredible journey in so many ways. Just seeing the impact that it's had on, women's self-esteem and confidence and sense of identity. And hair is such a personal and intimate thing. We, as hairstylists, we're putting our hands on our clients' uh, heads. We've got the power to really transform how a person can then feel about themselves, and to be able to go that one step further and do that for people who are blind or low vision is, has an even greater impact, way more than I think us who have eyesight realize. There is this perception that anyone who's blind or low vision doesn't care about how they look, or what they wear, and it's so far from the truth. We've been able to see in the years that we've been hosting the workshops just how much of a difference it's made, to the point where we've had some women in their 30s who have never had jobs, now feel confident to consider putting themselves forward for jobs. And that's, that just goes to show the impact that it can have on a person's life. So yeah, it's a lot of work, but really rewarding. and just a lot of things that have to go on behind the scenes, and from managing a team to managing another Instagram account to training hairstylists, because of course that training isn't necessarily about hairdressing skills, but more about accessible and mindful language. It's just a completely different approach. And fundraising. We've been offering the workshops free of charge for over 3 years, but part of that means that we've got to do a lot of fundraising. So one of the things that we do is I give my time free of charge to hosting a masterclass called The Art of Session Hairstyling. So we run it twice a year in April and November. It's a 3-day immersive, creative, and actually quite a unique masterclass. So as well as kind of bringing all my skills, tips, advice, we delve into the looks that I've created across my 15-year career. So they get to look and learn, but as well as work on models. We also have an incredible photographer who comes on the second day to take photos of their final looks, so they also get images for their portfolio. But we do, when I say it's immersive, we also look at how to draw inspiration, and we really delve into that, understanding the power of reference images and cultural references, and sharing with people how to communicate ideas, how to form ideas, how to storyboard ideas. So, the tools that are out there to help people create simple mood boards. And we do sensory exercises as well. Don't want to give too much away, but we get hairstylists to participants to close their eyes. We listen to pieces of music. We we delve into the power of the arts and how they too can influence hairstyles, looks, point of views, your own unique understanding of how to go about finding your aesthetic. So it's I hosted my first one in November last year. So we've done two, which have sold out. It's for us, we only have up to 20 people who join the masterclass. And it's I didn't think, obviously there was a need there to fundraise for hair and care, but I didn't realize just how much I would enjoy the actual process of designing the course, but then also hosting it. And it's been an incredible journey for me also as an educator, and it's something that I didn't ever think I would do. But our next one is in November, November the 4th. We've sold around, I think it's 75% sold. So we've got a few more spaces left. So but it's a really exciting.
I want to
Come and join. Are you coming to London anytime soon?
I don't have any plans to come to London, but I would come for something like that for sure. I would come out. I'll have to look into it. That sounds
November 4th, 5th, and 6th. So if you can work it out to be in London, then we'd love to have you.
Oh, that would be so cool. That would be so cool. I love that. I love knowing that those feed each other. I love knowing that signing up for that, is part of or it contributes to hair and care. And I think it's really beautiful. I think that, we're seeing much more immersive like hair education situations coming up, like
Yeah.
the Wig Academy, what they're doing. It sounds really cool. I think that it's just, I mean, it's an extension of what we're trying to do with Lost Hairdressers, which is just like pull everybody together and maybe to an extent like demystify this world,
Yeah.
so everybody can feel comfortable taking part.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. That's a really beautiful
it's
way
really
to put it, actually. Um, and it's, I didn't, I didn't think I would learn as well. It's, because obviously there's just so many different hairstylists of different levels, and it's very much open to hairstylists of all levels. That just by virtue of people signing up and wanting to invest in themselves, and wanting to find inspiration, or wanting to go down a different path in their hairdressing career, it's just it opened up so many interesting questions. And just from how to create certain dynamic looks, to then how to tap into the industry, how to form emails when trying to get onto big teams at Fashion Week, and that just being able to share that and talk it through has also been a great journey for me, because it's just tapped into all this knowledge that I didn't think I had, right? Because you just, I don't know, as freelance hairstylists, you just go through the motions. We're just all doing our thing and working on our careers, and then you realize just how much knowledge there is, and just how much actually support people need, because I think by virtue of having all these incredible social media platforms, it's also created maybe a lot of disillusionment for people. They think they can come into the industry and that it's going to be quite easy, and it's not until they're in it that they realize that there is a lot to learn. And so of course, coming to this course, booking on this course isn't going to instantly make you an established session hairstylist, but it's certainly going to help with having a much broader understanding of the industry, but also of the skills, because they get a good amount of time to really practice what I consider are the fundamental essential skills that can be adapted for really all situations.
awesome. Well, I hope to take part, and I hope some people listening will sign up too, even for future events. I'm really happy you're out there doing your thing, and I hope I get to see you in person sometime soon.
Oh, me too, Clint. Me too.